Hello, I'm Dick.
And I'm Eric, and we're the Annuity guys.
Eric, everybody wants in life for everything that they do.
I want the button.
A big button.
Undo.
They can just undo it.
I want to go back a day.
I bought a bad car, or
hit the button.
We made a bad decision. Just hit the undo button.
Yeah, let's go back and do that one over.
Right, and with annuities,
it exists.
It does.
There
exist.
is an undo button.
It is. That's right. And a lot of folks wouldn't maybe be aware of that terminology unless they've been looking at annuities for a while. And that's the free look clause that's allowed in virtually every state.
It's the metaphorically, you can drive an annuity around for 30 days.
Yes.
Or actually, I should say it's 10 to 30 days typically.
Right.
Differs by state and by carrier.
Yes.
So we can't be blanket in talking about this in the sense of how many days you have. But if you think about having a 10-day period where you can drive your annuity around, test drive it, make sure it feels right and wears right, and if you like it, you get to keep it. And if you don't, you take it back to the carrier.
Right.
And you turn it back in and you get your money back.
Well, and Eric, I think that this gives a lot of people confidence when they're in the process, the planning process of an annuity, and they're getting all of their questions answered. They're feeling comfortable with their decision, but there's always this little bit of, well, what if I'm not satisfied?
Well, and a lot of times when you start talking about the annuity, you talk about it in terms of what the benefits are and how it's going to work in your situation. Well, sometimes until that contract actually shows up and you have 30 pages of basically disclosure and legalese and dialogue.
Right.
But those are the things that are the meat and potatoes. You want to make sure that you understand that. Sometimes when you're going through that, there's some things that you go, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't understand that.
Correct.
Here's the nice thing. You still have time, even after you've gotten that to that state,
right?
Where if you say, hey, you know what, I didn't understand that, I'm not comfortable, I want to go back and revisit, you can step back. You can even undo it, even if you decide to redo it again.
Exactly.
60 days down or whatever.
And to just go a little bit further on what you're explaining, a lot of times when you're in the purchasing process, you're understanding the concept. Yeah. You're looking at a lot of the meat and potatoes, a lot of the details. Many times you may even request or look at what's called a specimen contract.
Sure.
But the specimen contract isn't going to be identical.
Right. It's not going to be your contract.
Exactly. Yeah. And there can even be certain clauses and word changes along the way because the companies adjust to regulatory, provisions and just different things that happen. So that's part of the reason the states give this free look. They want you to take your time, look at the contract, discuss it with the advisor, the agent, and be comfortable with that, and then you can undo it if you're not.
Right. You want that flexibility to really dig into it. Even times when obviously the agent, the advisor is going to go through it with you, but then you have your time just on your own where you can consult and really dig into it. So you're not going to read probably 60 pages or 30 pages with the advisor sitting right there. You're going to go through and hit the highlights and it kind of break down. But most of the time there's clauses or things that people, and I'll say the things that jump out at people when I've gone through contracts with them. We always talk about some of the caps and the rates and the spreads. When you get into the contracts, you'll see the minimums or the maximums actually explained in detail. And a lot of times people hear what we were explaining in the sense of where the rates are right now. Well, they don't understand that's resets every year. In fact, I just had a conversation where someone said, well, you mean that changes every year? Yes, those rates and caps a lot of times will be restated.
They're subject to change with certain minimums.
Yes, those are stated in the contract.
Yes.
Well, a lot of times people, that may be the first time they're really grasping that those things will adjust every year. And so it takes another perspective. So
it's good to have that understanding. Right. And then my experience, in practice and yours, has been, it's very rare if you've done proper planning with a client that they ever decide to free look a contract. Right. They have a lot more confidence going into signing the contract and the application and moving forward in the contract. But once they receive it, if you've done proper planning and nothing, really catastrophic has changed for the client, they're very pleased as a rule, but they also have that added layer of comfort that they can walk away from this, that it is satisfaction guaranteed And in some ways, it's almost like the retailer that says 100% money back guarantee.
Go hit the undo button. So, yeah.
Who should use this, though? I mean, what type of situation arises that you can think of where somebody goes, wow, I'm going to hit that undo button?
Well, where I've seen it is just when people, this sometimes get to be a gut decision for some people, or it's that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
And I always tell my clients, if it doesn't feel right, let's back off, start over,
rethink it, make sure you're confident, comfortable.
And a lot of times that happens more so when somebody's not necessarily buying a annuity for the guarantees. You're looking at it for doing something else.
Right.
It may be a long-term care provision where you thought you were getting one thing, and the provisions are, you have to be in a nursing home for 180 days, rather than you thought, well, as soon as I go in.
Yes.
So those clauses, those pieces that differentiate, sometimes they cause pause.
Right.
But everybody, and I should say this, almost everybody, when they sit down with that contract for the first time, they have this buyer's remorse.
At least some degree of that. We all do.
Everybody says, am I making the right decision?
Right.
Because it's usually a large financial commitment. Here's something that's designed to provide you a safety net in retirement. You saved all this money.
Right. Is this the right safety net?
Yeah. And it's, you have to then reflect back to the guarantees, the outcomes that you bought, the reason you decided that annuity was the right purchase. Do those things still remain the same?
And if you went through a really serious planning process with an advisor, and we call it outcome-based planning, where we look at the different outcomes of different annuities and strategies combined that can all be somewhat successful or even very successful. And then the client chooses what they feel is really best for them. They're going to be pretty confident. But I would say that, folks, there's situations that you're going to be in potentially where you've been rushed into something. There's been some urgency added to the decision. And you're going to be rethinking that, and that's probably for a good reason. And that's what that undo button is for.
And here's the nice thing. If you did feel rushed in and you've got the contract in hand, congratulations, you now have another 10 days, 20 days, 30, whatever that number is. You have that time period to take a deep breath, really get into the meat and potatoes, and if you don't like it,
I mean, you're better off to err on the side of starting over than to feel obligated. And sometimes people just feel too obligated, Eric, to go forward.
Well, and I'll take this as a personal compliment. They don't want to make the advisor feel bad that they have to go back and do all the work. No, as an advisor, I don't want to have to go back and redo it. I'll be honest, it's not a fun thing, but you know what? I'd rather have you feel good about it than worrying about hurting my feelings. So, and if the advisor, all he does is whine and cry about all the paperwork he's going to have to do,
put you on a guilt trip,
and how much money you're taking out of his pocket, then the relationship probably wasn't formed on the right principles to begin with.
Right.